Hello YouTube and welcome to another NixOS tutorial. So in this video I'm going to show you some basic configuration for the NixOS operating system. So are you ready? Let's get started. So as you have seen on my previous video, I showed you how to install NixOS on proxmox. Okay, so here as you can see I am in proxmox and my virtual machine is running. Okay, so in order to do some basic configuration for this NixOS operating system, we're gonna connect to it via SSH. Okay, so I already done that on my previous video, but here I'm gonna show you some extra configuration. So here the first thing to do actually is to set up static IP address for the NixOS, because by default it's using DHCP. Okay, so if I issued command IPA, here you can see the IP address of this virtual machine, which is 192.168.1.13. but remember this is a DHCP IP address, but we're gonna convert that to actually static IP address. Okay, so here two things to remember or to take note of in this configuration is, of course, first of all the IP address, which is .1.13, and second the name of our network interface. So in this case it is NS18, as you can see here. So we're gonna use these two information in order to get or to set up static IP address. Okay, so let's connect to this machine via this IP address using SSH. Okay, so I'm gonna use up or PowerShell. Okay, so here we go, SSH username, then the IP address, and of course I have to enter the password that I have set up during the install process. So as you can see I am in. So let's issue once again the command IPA. Here we go. So we have everything here clear. We have the IP address and we have also the interface name. In this case it is NS18. Okay, so as you have seen on my previous video, the most important file for configuration of NixOS is configuration.nix file, which reside on the directory. So let's open it, for example, using nano. So this file resides in the directory /etc/nixos okay, /configuration.nix. here we go. So of course I have to enter a password here, and this is my configuration file that I have to make some changes into it in order to get static IP address. So remember here by default I'm using DHCP. Okay, so in order to set up static IP address for this machine, it's pretty easy. We have to add a couple of lines. So here we go, I will show you these lines. Here we go. So here we are enabling networking with network.network manager.enable is equal to true. So here inside the networking we use the DHCP. The value will be false because we'll not be using actually DHCP, but we are using static IP. And here we are entering the IP address for this virtual machine. So here, for example, I can set up .1.113 if I want. The prefix line is 24, of course, and the default gateway is my router, which is .1.1. and of course I can also add the name servers. Okay, here we go. So it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's save that. And of course whenever you make changes to this configuration.nix file, you have to execute special command sudo nixos-rebuild switch, so in order to make the configuration active. So remember, this is the most important command that you're gonna use every time when you make a configuration changes to this file here. Okay, so let's execute this command and see what we get. So remember, we have set up static IP address that 113. So now it's building the NixOS configuration, building the system configuration. So here you will notice that nothing happens simply because the IP address has been changed. It was before 13, now it's 113. That's why it appears that nothing happens here. But let's go to our proxmox and issue the command IPA this time. And here we go. As you can see now, the IP address has changed from 13 to 113. So we cannot reach via SSH via the old IP address. Okay, that's why it appears here stuck. So you can see here, send disconnect connection reset, because the IP address has been changed. So if I try to reach it via the old IP address, I cannot get to it. So I have to use the new IP address. Okay, so let's now use the new IP address, which is that 113. And here we go. Now I have reachability, so I can SSH into my machine. So everything is working good. IPA, now it shows the new IP address. Okay, I want to do also another thing here. So remember, when I use here our proxmox, if I go to the summary here, no guest agent configured. Normally here you will see the IP address of the virtual machine, but here, as we don't have any guest agent installed, we don't have this information. So let's fix that by installing the QEMU guest agent on our virtual machine. So pretty easy also to do. So all you have to do is once again to open the configuration file using your favorite editor, etc/nixos, then configuration. Here we go. And here I have to also add a special command. So I will go to the bottom or just next to actually the enable networking. Here I will enable the agent, so I will paste this command here. So in order to enable the QEMU agent, I have actually to activate a service called QEMU guest.enable is equal to true. Okay, so let's save the file. Here we go. I will execute the famous command nixos-rebuild switch in order to activate the configuration once again. Okay, so now it has finished. But if I return back to my proxmox, you can see I still didn't get actually the IP addresses, simply because you have to reboot your machine in order to get the guest agent configured. So let's issue the command reboot in order to see what we get. So let's switch back to our proxmox here, and of course now it's rebooting. Okay, it has finished. So now let's go to our summary. Okay, here you can see that I still didn't get actually the IP address, but actually this is due to an option that is not activated by default on my proxmox. So I have to go to options and go to here to QEMU guest agent. So by default it's disabled. So let's use QEMU guest agent. Here we go. And let's reboot it once again. So I will enter here the credentials. And let's reboot it once again. Here we go. And hopefully this time we will get our IP addresses. Okay. Okay, so now the system has rebooted. So let's go to our summary, and voila, as you can see now I get the IPv4 and also the IPv6 IP address for the virtual machine. And of course you can get rid of this IPv6 if you want, so it's pretty easy. So let's connect to it via SSH. So in order to get rid of this actually IPv6, it's also very easy. So all you have to do is to add actually another line to disable IPv6, and this command is simple as networking.enable.IPv6 is equal to false. Okay, so those are the most basic things to do in order to configure actually NixOS. So remember, this configuration.nix file is pretty important, because if you have new installation and if you want to get the same configuration for another PC or another virtual machine, so all you have to do is to copy this configuration.nix file to the new machine and run the command that I showed you, nixos-rebuild switch, and you will get the same software, the same configuration for the new machine. So remember to backup every time this configuration.nix file, because it's the core file for your NixOS operating system. So that was just a brief video to show you how to do some basic configuration for the NixOS operating system. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. And of course, if you have any suggestion for future video, drop them in the comment below. As always, I hope it has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing. Bye bye.